I want to welcome you for our Wednesday evening check-in. I'm so glad that you are here, and many of you are faithful just every single week. And I hope this is an encouraging time to you. If you've been paying attention lately, we have been going through the Gospel of John, one chapter at a time. And last week we were in chapter 8. And I'm going to turn my ringer off. But anyway, we have been going through the Gospel of John, but I've been encouraging you in our church to participate and watch the videos for The Chosen, which is just a creative interpretation of the gospel story and the story of Jesus. And so I've decided that for the next several weeks, we're going to look at the scriptures that will be covered in the next week's episode of The Chosen. And this next week, it's going to be about the Sabbath. And so I just want to give you a few reflections on the Sabbath, and I encourage you to watch The Chosen. You can search for The Chosen Episode 2 on YouTube, and that was a global premiere. So the director talks for about 10 minutes, and then the movie, actually, the show starts at 12 minutes in and lasts for about 45 minutes. All of them are around an hour, so it looks like it's longer, but that's because there's talking on the front and the back end of it. As we prepare for this time together, I just want to sing a song for you that we have sung in church, and you'll hear again very soon. It's called Waymaker, and I hope you'll enjoy this. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, mending every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. We'll do this chorus one more time. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. I hope that you enjoy that song. And as we consider these verses today about the Sabbath, I think as I reflect upon my life, there has always been an uneasy tension about the Sabbath, and Christians, of course, worship on Sunday because of the resurrection and have in the church. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, and there, when I was a child, you had numerous stores closed on Sunday. They called them blue laws. And you couldn't grocery shop, you couldn't go to certain restaurants, you couldn't go to any kind of retail or anything on a Sunday. And so there was this cultural pressure to make Sunday a different day than other days. And then I think as time has gone on, Sunday has turned into a day like most other days. I mean, if you work retail, Sunday may be the biggest day of the week for selling things. Restaurants, Sundays can be a really big thing. And so we focused on what can you do, what can't you do, what's the intention, and I think the important thing is for us to look at God's intention for the Sabbath. And when we do that and we interpret it into our lives, perhaps it gives us a little bit more help. The Ten Commandments are listed in two different places in the Bible. They're listed in Exodus chapter 20 and in Deuteronomy chapter 5. Obviously, Exodus is the second book of the Bible, so that's the first place that it's listed. And here's the way, and here's something to know about the Sabbath. There are 10 commandments there. Fully 1/3 of the words in the Ten Commandments are instructions about the Sabbath. That's pretty interesting there. 1/3 of the words. God says more about the Sabbath than anything else. And maybe a question we can ask is why. I want to read the verses that are there. In Deuteronomy chapter 5, it says this: observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy, as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. You shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male or female slave or your ox or your donkey or any of your livestock or the resident alien in your towns, so that your male and female slave may rest as well as you. Okay, so that's what is said in Deuteronomy chapter 5, and basically that's exactly what is said in Exodus. But in Exodus, this is the reason given for the Sabbath. In Exodus, God tells the people, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, but rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. In 6 days God made the earth, but on the seventh day God rested, and so that is why you are to observe the Sabbath. And that's the explanation given in Exodus chapter 20. And that's an important thing to notice. If you go back and read the creation story, particularly in Genesis chapter 1, you see each day was good. Days 1 through day 6, they were good, but the seventh day was intended to be holy, set apart, different, sacred. God rested from the work that he had done. And so that's why they're told to do it. But 3 books later, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, in Deuteronomy chapter 5, a different explanation is given. By this time, the Israelites have known oppression. They have been slaves in Egypt before, and God has delivered them. And they remember very well what it's like to be not free, to have someone else call the shots on what they do with their stuff and what they do with their time. And in that book, this is what's given. All of the command is the same. You're not supposed to work, nor is your male or female servant, nor are your oxen or donkey or your livestock. But here, instead of rest on the Sabbath because God rested in creation, the explanation is this: remember, you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. God demonstrated in the Exodus that God is in control, and God has say-so over what his people can and cannot do with their time, with where they live. God is the one who is the authority. And so I heard this week a Jewish rabbi who is a Messianic Jew. He believes in Jesus. I heard him talking about the Sabbath, and he said, and this is the way he explained it, he combined the two commands. He said, you remember the Sabbath day, and you keep it holy because the seventh day is the day that God rested. And if you can't rest, then really you're still a slave in Egypt. So he kind of combined it. So there are 2 reasons God says to rest. The commandments say to rest. One, because God rested on the seventh day. It was different. It was set apart. There was a day when creation was appreciated, not worked on. And the other one is that you were a slave at one time, but now you are free. I wonder, do you observe any kind of Sabbath? In our culture today, workaholism is probably the only aholism that you can stand up in a meeting and be applauded for. um, but when you observe a Sabbath, you recognize that God is the one who's in control of this world and all these things and this stuff, this community, this church, this nation. It's God's, not mine. And it can go on just fine for one day without me toiling, you know? Earlier in my ministry, I recognized for ministers, it's kind of hard to think about, well, rest on Sunday. You know, some people have said that. It's kind of hard to think about that because Sunday tends to be a very hard day, particularly if you are preaching or teaching or planning to be present for members in the church. So I typically have tried to either Friday or Saturday or Monday take some time off, and it is just absolutely amazing what I notice happens to me when I take part of a day. I may wake up on a Monday and be free until, let's say, noon, 2 o'clock, 4 or 5 hours of everything from going on a run in the woods to spending some time reading the Bible to just sit in a nice time of the year to just sitting outside, maybe doing some journaling or reading or some thinking or some praying. It's amazing what happens in my heart when I give time just for God's benefit, you know, just to enjoy God and the things of God, to do some thinking, maybe some writing. I think that command in many ways is at the heart of all the commands because it really prepares us to recognize the posture that we have. God is our creator, and everything we have is a gift from God. And one of the things that God has gifted us is the Sabbath, a time to rest, a time to reflect. Maybe in your tradition, or the way that you've grown up, Sunday was kind of like the Sabbath. And with family, you attended church together. And then maybe you had a meal together. And then Sunday afternoon was different than the other afternoons because you piled in the car and you went to grandmom's and you visited with your aunts and your uncles. Or you just went out on a picnic, or you just enjoyed time together and before God. One book that has helped me tremendously understand and appreciate the Sabbath is a book written by Abraham Joshua Heschel, and it's called The Sabbath. And I'm sure we have it in our church library. I have a couple of copies that I would lend you. It's a fantastic understanding of a Jewish person explaining what the Sabbath can be. And here are a couple of things that Heschel says about the Sabbath. He says, the Sabbath is not just rest for the body, it is rest for your soul. A couple of other things. He says this, 6 days a week we wrestle with the world, wringing profit from the earth. But on the Sabbath we especially care for the seed of eternity planted in the soul. The world has our hands, but our soul belongs to someone else. And he capitalizes the someone else. 6 days a week, the world has our hands and our toil, but on the seventh, we tend to the seed of eternity planted in our soul. Oh, I love that. Isn't that powerful? Here are a couple of quotes that Heschel has said in his book, The Sabbath, about that being an actual gift for you and for me. There is a realm of time where the goal is not to have, but to be. Not to own, but to give. Not to control, but to share. Not to subdue, but be in accord. The Sabbath is the most precious present people have received from the treasure house of God. The encouragement to take a day that is set apart for worship and reflection and rest, and to bring those that you love together if it's at all possible. A couple of other quotes here that I want to just share. The higher goal of spiritual living is not to amass a wealth of information or of stuff, but to face sacred moments. I think if you take some time and spend a day that is very different than other days, reflecting upon the other days, it helps us to understand the sacredness of each moment and to recognize that there's no such thing for the believer, for the person who is paying attention to the things of God. There's no such thing as a throwaway day or a throwaway time. When God is in it, it can be a holy, precious, important, sacred moment. The last quote that I wanted to share with you is one from Abraham Joshua Heschel. All of the quotes were from him. But he, of course, lived through the Holocaust and taught afterwards in Hebrew colleges. But he said, in thinking about the Sabbath and about Jews and the gift of the Sabbath to the Jews, he said, the Sabbaths are our great cathedrals, and our Holy of Holies is a shrine that neither the Romans nor the Germans were able to burn. The Sabbath is a gift. So many times I think we define our life by our pursuits and those things we amass and those things that we collect or those things that we conquer. That's about space and stuff, but the Sabbath is about time. Time is God's. And God says, rest. Make a day that is holy. Work the other days. This is not any kind of negative thing about work. Matter of fact, the Ten Commandments say 6 days you shall work, but the seventh is to be holy. It's to be sacred. It's to be set apart. It's to be different. It is set apart for God, a time of thanksgiving and reflection. In the Christian church, we don't observe the Sabbath as Saturday, as Jews still do. We have kind of moved our day that we worship to Sunday, but I don't think in this situation that God is legalistic about which day and which hours actually have to be observed. I think the encouragement that I hear, and hopefully that maybe you hear as well, is there needs to be a day that's different, that is set apart for God. This is a gift. It's a gift to know that there is a day when you can just enjoy being a child of God and not have to be in charge of everything in the world. If you plan to watch The Chosen, you will see a powerful illustration of the in the YouTube video, and I'll link to it here, but you'll see a powerful illustration of the weekly Sabbath meal on the Friday night, and it is just absolutely moving, and I hope that perhaps you'll be encouraged either by some of this scripture or some of the things I've shared, or maybe by watching the video that I've mentioned. I hope that you'll be encouraged to make a specific day holy and set apart, different. It is a gift that God intends for you to enjoy. Thank you for being here. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. The Lord be gracious to you and give you peace. Amen. I'll see you next time.